And welcome back to the latest and greatest edition of Between the Hash Marks. We have a special Thanksgiving episode for you guys here. We have our picks against the spread for Thanksgiving games, all three games. We have our DraftKings lineup for the Thanksgiving games.
It's pretty tough to make that lineup.
Oh, absolutely, man. I was struggling with it all damn day. We also are going to be talking about what is going on with the Kansas City Chiefs this season. But first, it is time for my opening rant.
Your number one source for sports.
You know who I can't stand? Kevin Durant.
He looks like Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton had a kid.
Now, who can argue with that?
I hate Boston.
I'm the biggest Miami Heat hater you'll ever meet.
I just don't understand where you're getting your bogus information from.
What the hell are you even talking about?
Well, I'm sorry you're too freaking sensitive to handle the truth.
You think I'm crazy? I'm just getting warmed up.
You're now Between the Hash Marks with James Koklak and Sean McCabe.
I am officially convinced the Buffalo Bills have zero idea on what they are doing. We begin by looking how they finished last season by losing their final two games and firing their head coach Rex Ryan, who they never should have hired in the first place. Then they have the draft, and immediately after the draft, while their GM, Doug Whaley, went to go grab himself a soda thinking he did just a hell of a job, they fire him. They then begin their regular season by trading away their top receiver, Sammy Watkins, who is a playmaker, who's a deep threat, and they expect Jordan Matthews, they bring him in, a slot receiver who drops literally everything, and they expect him to fill those shoes of Sammy Watkins. Then they are sitting at 4-2, and they decide to trade away their best defensive lineman in Marcell Dareus to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Buffalo with Marcell Dareus, 79.2 rushing yards against, only 17 points per game against, only 3.12 yards per carry against. Buffalo Bills without Marcell Dareus, 164.2 rushing yards per game against, giving up over 27 points per game and giving up over 5.2 yards per carry. Jacksonville, since they got Marcell Dareus, with him, 58 rushing yards given up per game, 12 points per game given up, and only 2.5 yards per carry given up. This is Jacksonville, great defense against the pass, but we saw the New York Jets just completely destroy him. But since they got Dareus, and those numbers speak to themselves here, 138.6 rushing yards a game against without Dareus, 15.7 points per game without Dareus, and giving up over 5.1 yards per carry without Dareus. We then continue with the Buffalo Bills mishaps. They trade for Kelvin Benjamin. They have no idea how to use him at all. They can't even use him the first week that he's eligible to play for them. Sits out that entire game. He comes back the next game. He eventually gets hurt. Finally, the nail in the coffin, Sean McDermott, their head coach, decides to bench the starting quarterback, Tyrod Taylor, for their backup, Nathan Peterman. Tyrod Taylor, let me just tell you this, 91.4 passer rating, that is 14th in the NFL. That's better than Dak Prescott. That's better than Phillip Rivers. That's better than Derek Carr. That's better than Ben Roethlisberger. 11 touchdowns to 3 interceptions for Nathan Peterman. And Buddy goes out there in the first half of the game and he throws 5 interceptions in the first half, just the first half. Tyrod Taylor has 3 interceptions all damn year. And not to mention, Peterman doesn't even throw a single touchdown. They finally decide to pull the pick machine out, and they bring Tyrod back in, and he comes in less than 2 quarters. He goes 15 for 25, $158, a touchdown, and no interceptions at all. The Bills are completely garbage from the very top of the organization where ownership is all the way to the bottom and many people should lose their job for turning this potential playoff team into a complete dumpster fire. James, what do you think?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts about that. The pick machine. They finally pulled the pick machine. I love that. But as you said, you put out some stats for this year for Tyrod as 91.4 passer rating. He's got basically 1,900 yards on the year with 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 63 completion percentage, but look at his career rating now. His career stats lines up basically with this year, 92.1, so ever so slightly better. He's got 8,099 passing yards with 48 touchdowns and only 17 interceptions in his whole entire career.
He takes care of the ball.
Yeah, and as I said, his completion percentage this year is 63.8. His first career is a 62.7.
So it's consistent all around.
All around. And I haven't even gotten to the rushing yards. The rushing yards for his career, he is averaging 5.5 yards per rush with 1,559 rushing yards for his career. Now, if I didn't tell you that was Tyrod Taylor, and I just threw those career numbers at you, and I said that quarterback is under the age of 30, you're telling me I want him on my team.
Absolutely.
What are the Bills thinking playing him for Nathan Peterman?
I couldn't tell you, man. I really couldn't tell you.
The only thing that could have been going through his mind, the coach, McDermott, is that Peterman did beat Clemson last year when he was at Pittsburgh. But I want to dive into those numbers very quickly, because here, Peterman had more. He has 15 interceptions in 2 years at Pitt, in 2015, 2016, and Tyrod has 17 for his whole entire career.
Yeah, and obviously going against tougher competition all around, he just this guy's making mistakes left and right against ACC teams. Some are good, some are terrible.
For the likes of Oklahoma, they're putting up 600 yards a game. A lot of college teams are doing that nowadays. A minimum 450, 500 yards a game, unless you're having an off day. Peterman put up barely 4,000 or 5,000 yards combined in 2 years. And the numbers just don't add up to benching him with the numbers that we do have on him right now.
And even if, like, I can understand if Tyrod, he's got 1,900 yards this year, and he's like, that's like ranks for like 24th or 25th in the NFL. And I can understand if he wasn't having the rushing yards to compensate for that. Okay, Buddy had a bad game. Let's bring in the other guy. Let's bring the new guy, see what he's got. And he didn't look terrible in garbage time 2 weeks ago. Sorry. But like that's not a reason to just completely just throw out your starter. And it seems like this has been like the issue with the Bills. They give him this money, and then all of a sudden they just hate him.
And you know what else we have to take into consideration here is the fact that he has Shady McCoy.
Yeah.
He has a great, not a good, but a great running back, a great one-cut running back who's going to get the ball 20 to 25 times a game. That is taking away from Tyrod throwing the ball.
And even last week when they had Peterman in there, McCoy had like 8 carries for like 90 yards, something like that. So even with this terrible quarterback, they were still able to run the ball effectively.
It makes no sense. They were on track to break their playoff drought, which I believe. Don't quote me on this, but I believe. I know it's the longest in the NFL. It might be the longest in playoff sports, not championships, but longest playoff drought. I believe it might be the longest.
Since the 90s, right? It's got to be since the 90s.
They were sitting at 5-2, looking pretty. Everybody thinks, all right, this is the year. They actually have a good team. I honestly don't know where it went wrong. And you cannot blame the players in full. You have to blame the GM. You have to blame the coaching. You have to blame the head coach all the way down to the strength coach. You have to blame everybody who's a part of this organization for not putting these players in the best position to win football games, because they are a good football team. You don't sit at 5-2 halfway through the season without being good.
They definitely have talent there, and it looked at the beginning of the year that they were going to basically just say, you know what, screw it, we're tanking this season, and then the players show up just like kind of like the Jets.
Well, that's what it looked like at the beginning, and that's what I don't understand too, is you trade away a guy like Sammy Watkins, and then you say, all right, well, we're gathering all these picks, but then you go out and get Kelvin Benjamin, somebody who hasn't been all that productive, plus he's been injured with the Panthers. In reality, I'd rather have Sammy Watkins.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me.
All right, going forward, they have to play at Kansas City, against New England, against Indianapolis, against against Miami, and then at New England, then at Miami again. Do they make the playoffs?
No, they don't. And to be quite frank, there's a high possibility that they can lose out
Yeah, absolutely. I could absolutely see them losing out. I think they will win this Indianapolis game. I don't think much of Indianapolis. It's going to be in Buffalo, so I think they'll win that game. But all the rest of them, I think I have them going 1-5 the rest of the way.
Yeah, it's very possible they end the season 5-11 or 6-10 after starting 5-2, which would be maybe the biggest collapse in the NFL history. Playoff wise,
it's got to be up there, and it's just frustrating to see that a team that an exciting team that look at them run the ball like this, wow, look at their defense, wow, they beat Atlanta in Atlanta, when Denver was 3-0 or whatever, Denver goes to Buffalo completely wipes them off the face of the earth, they run all over Oakland, who everybody thinks is a good team, and then what are they doing? They go to New York, get spanked on Monday or Thursday night, and you know what? It kind of reminds me of another team. Who's that? Coming up next on BTH.
You're listening to Between the Hash Marks with James Koklak and Sean McCabe, brought to you by an unknown sponsor we don't have yet. Now back to the show.
And welcome back to BTH. And we just talked about the downfall of the Buffalo Bills season here, as they have definitely gone in a downward spiral, and another team has gone down in a downward spiral, and a team that everybody thought really could possibly challenge the Steelers and the Patriots for a Super Bowl berth. But first, remember to like us on iTunes and Facebook at Between the Hash Marks. Do not forget YouTube. Follow us everywhere. Comment on everything. Tell us what you like our memes. But now I want to jump into the Kansas City Chiefs. What has gone wrong with them? It's kind of like the Bills situation, but with a good backup quarterback sitting behind Alex Smith. It's like the same situation, but vice versa, if that makes sense. The quarterback, Alex Smith, is the one who can't get it. His numbers do not represent how he's played. Would you agree with that? That they're almost...
Yeah, he's rated right now as the second best quarterback in the NFL as far as passer rating wise, but I think that's super inflated based on the first 5 games they had in this season. And I mean, they did have a couple good games in the last 5 games that they've played, but that for a majority of those last 5 games, he's been pretty terrible.
They're 1-4.
You can see that he's pretty limited.
It doesn't make sense to me because the Chiefs have so much talent.
Yeah.
You have Travis Kelce, is easily at least the third best tight end in the game.
Yeah.
Maybe second.
At a minimum.
Jordan Reed is up there. He's always injured though.
To me, I would go Gronk, and then it's between Ertz and Kelce.
I couldn't. I think at least those 4, when all healthy,
Yeah.
the only one that stands out is Gronk. He's the clear-cut number 1. But besides Kelce, you have Hill. You have Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is one of, if not the most explosive player in the NFL.
Absolutely.
He might be the fastest player in the NFL. He can do so many things except throw the ball, apparently.
Yeah. He's a track star.
You have Kareem Hunt. You have Albert Wilson. You have a stacked defense right now that's sitting in the bottom half of the league. Just the whole season hasn't added up for the Kansas City Chiefs, and I really can't put my finger on any specific thing other than maybe a change at quarterback.
Here, I'll tell you exactly. I don't think it's a change at quarterback that's necessary this season. I think they need to continue rolling with Alex Smith. I think if they put Pat Mahomes in right now, I think it'd be disastrous for Pat Mahomes going forward. But after this season, I would like to see that change. I would like to see them really compete it out in the training camp. But I'll tell you exactly what their problem is. If you just look at their first 5 games and then you just look at their last 5 games. First 5 games they go 5-0. Last 5 games they're 1-4. In the first 5 games, they're allowing 22 points per game, 22.2 points per game allowed in the first 5. The second 5, 21.8 points per game allowed. So that's actually very similar. I've actually been better on defense points-wise the last 5 games. However, the defense already is not that good. I'll get to that in a minute. But let's just look at the offensive numbers. First 5 games, averaging 32.8 points per game. The last 5 games, they're averaging 19.6. So they're averaging, before there's a 32 points per game, only giving up 22 points per game, 10-point difference right there. Now they're only scoring 19 points per game and giving up almost 22. So -3 right there per game. Their offense is super limited. Alex Smith is extremely limited, and they can't run the ball as effectively right now. And I think that has to go. If they had Spencer Ware, or if they had another running back on that team, like a power running back on that team, that they could divvy up the carries between him and Kareem Hunt a little bit. The problem with Kareem Hunt is he's a rookie. He's not used to playing 16 games a year. He's used to playing 10, 11 games a year and going balls to the wall those 10 games in the year. But he's going to the second half of the year, and I'm surprised that. Okay, I thought after this bye week, you have 2 weeks to rest up going into the Giants game. I thought this past week he would have had another 100-yard game, but he did not look good.
He's also playing against bigger and stronger and more physical and faster players here in the NFL. So I couldn't agree more with that he is definitely wearing down at this point in the season. And they're trying to do too much because they know Alex Smith is limited throwing the ball downfield. There's no reason that Kelsey should be throwing the ball in the red zone.
No.
There's no reason that Tyreek Hill, when he has the ball in his hands in the backfield, should be throwing the ball to anybody. He should be running. Those things, I understand you're trying trick plays, but trick plays work when you can throw the ball down the field.
Yeah.
When there is a threat for that. Right now, there is no threat for that. Alex Smith is known and has been known for being a game manager, which is not bad if you have the players.
And he's been successful at being a game manager his entire career, and I think this year, going into the season, they draft Pat Mahomes because he's the guy that can throw the ball down the field effectively. I mean, you saw him at Texas Tech. He's throwing like 400, 500 yards a game.
He had that insane throw in the preseason, too.
Exactly. So I think having him really turned Alex Smith into this more ballsy quarterback, that he was willing to go deep more, willing to hit his playmakers more, and it was really effective the first 5 weeks because teams weren't expecting the Kansas City Chiefs and Alex Smith to come out like this, even though we see this every year. Alex Smith is amazing the first 5, 6, 7 games of the year, and then he sort of tails off as the warmer weather gets colder and everything like that, and defenses start getting more locked in.
That's the same for the same reason the Niners got rid of him and they let him go and let Kaepernick keep the job for them. The same thing's going to happen here. I do somewhat agree that Pat Mahomes would probably fail miserably if he was put in right now. I do think that he should start next season, but that's the only thing right now that could make sense is the risk to try it. And do I think they'll do it? No, they won't, because they have the same mindset as you and I. It will work better. But I don't think Alex Smith will be there for training camp. I don't think this
You think he's gone after this season?
Yes, for sure. I don't think that there is a battle between the two. Pat Mahomes' job is safe next year. He will be the starter here in Kansas City. And I think Alex Smith will be gone via trade, via release, via whatever path it is. He will not be there in training camp.
Okay, very interesting. I haven't really thought about that, because I'm thinking they're just gonna both try for the starting gig next year. But I mean, it would make sense for if they really believe in Mahomes to just dish out Alex Smith, or have him take like a huge pay cut and say, "Hey, you need to take a pay cut. You're going to be our backup. You can mentor this guy. You would be a great backup for us." But
chances are he won't take it, and that's okay. Yeah. And that's okay. But and I think the Chiefs are really excited about Pat Mahomes because they say me too. And he looks. I heard. Obviously, we don't see their practices. I've heard and I've read he looks phenomenal in practice. But practice is different from the game. I think sitting out this season and holding the clipboard on the side with the headset on and learning the pro style system, learning the pro style game, I think it's going to do wonders. And the Chiefs, if they can keep this core together, get back Eric Berry next year, which is probably part for the reason the Chiefs defense looks so bad, is because of that loss in week 1 to the torn Achilles. Getting those two players in the starting lineup, I think, will do wonders for this team next season.
Well, and I also think that this year, what people are forgetting, this is not your normal Kansas City defense that we've seen over the past 4 or 5 years. They are ranked 29th in yards per play on the defensive side of the ball, and that is not what you expect from the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think this is where fantasy football kind of hurts your perception of certain teams, because Kansas City's defense, they're very opportunistic. You throw a pick, they're going to run it back to the end zone against you. So they'll do those kinds of things, and you'll get the fantasy points for that defense. But they're giving up 300, 400, 500 yards a game.
I have those exact stats right here for you. 22 points per game on the season. That's best for 14th. That is the highest they go on the defensive side of the ball. Yards total 383. That's best for good for 28th.
Yeah.
253.8 pass yards per game. That's also 28th. And 129.2 rush yards per game. That is good for 29th in the NFL. So you have 3 out of the 4 major categories. They're 28th, and 29th on the defensive side of the ball.
They are currently sitting at 6-4. They have a 2-game division lead over the Chargers and the Raiders. They have to play both of them next.
Breaking news.
Not next, but they have to play them this season.
Breaking news for the Kansas City Chiefs.
This is what we're talking about. This is insane.
Darrelle Revis signs with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Wow. That's insane.
Wow. As we're talking about and it's not even just like we're talking about any team. We're talking about, this literally could not have been more perfect. What do you think about this signing?
Wow, this is insane. I think this absolutely helps them out a lot. I was just gonna say this team is done for the playoffs. They have no shot because I think that the Chargers are looking really good, and I think the Raiders are coming up again. So, wow, this really does save their defense.
A little bit.
Yeah.
These numbers, they won't be top 10 by the end of the season. They are too ragged at this point, for a lack of a better word.
Yeah.
But
no, it definitely helps them on the outside, which is where they need that help.
Now they have 2 lockdown corners.
Yeah.
You had the pick leader from last year.
Yeah. Do you think he plays this Sunday?
This Sunday, it depends on the type of shape he's in. I think it'll depend on the physical, but playbook wise, there's no doubt that if he's physically ready to play, he's in there, because he might be the smartest NFL player on the defensive side of the ball at cornerback at the very minimum on the field when he's on the field. And he understands everything. He understands every play call. If he is in football condition, the Chiefs have now locked down one side of the field. And if Marcus Peters can play the way he's known for playing cornerback, he led the league in picks last year, as I said, the Chiefs are now set on defense. They never have to play over the top, and it gives them the ability to do crazy blitzes. If this can work out for the Kansas City Chiefs, this could be the signing of the year.
Yeah, no, I think this is definitely going to help them out. I was just about to say that this team is done, just to reiterate, that this team is going to be done just with their schedule coming up. They have to face the division a couple times. It's not that terrible, but I think with this addition, it does help them out. It does give them that extra breathing room. They are 2 games up. However, I will adjust my opinion to if the Los Angeles Chargers are capable of winning this week in Dallas on Thanksgiving, I think the Kansas City Chiefs are in a lot of trouble. What are your thoughts on that?
It's the NFL. Anything could happen. If we talked about this after week 5, I would have told you you're crazy. With the way the Chiefs have played in the last 5 games, and yes, this helps them defensively tremendously, but they still right now have Alex Smith throwing the ball. He's not going to turn the ball over, but he's not going to get you a lot of yards. You're still going to struggle to get the ball downfield. So I can't disagree with you as much as I want to, because at the beginning of the year, I said the Chargers were going to lose a lot of close games, but they weren't going to be very good.
And I started selling them a little bit because I said they're going to be in the playoffs, and then I started selling them. Now I'm kind of hopping back on that bandwagon because I want to be right on that.
I'm back on the train.
Well, talking about those Thursday games, we have the picks against the spread for you for every single Thursday game. You're listening to BTH.
You're listening to Between the Hash Marks with James Koklak and Sean McCabe, brought to you by an unknown sponsor we don't have yet. Now back to the show.
And welcome back to Between the Hash Marks. We are going to be giving you our Thanksgiving special DraftKings picks, DraftKings lineup, and picks against the spread. First, we're going to go through our DraftKings lineup. We're going to go through and see if we have any similar players here. And because we're only picking Thanksgiving games, there's only so many players to choose from. We have actually quite a few similarities here. We do share Phillip Rivers. We share Keenan Allen. We share Stephon Diggs. And we share Josh Doxson of the Washington Redskins. Just tell me a little bit why you wanted Phillip Rivers.
I went with Phillip Rivers because look at what Carson Wentz just tore Dallas up.
This is exactly what I was going to say.
The Dallas defense, and don't get me wrong, Dak Prescott had the worst game of his career. He's missing Tyron Smith. When you put Tyron Smith back in there, the Cowboys still lose that game most likely, but it's probably 39-30, somewhere in that range. Much better game. People are tearing Dallas up, and he's cheap. He's 6,100. He's going up against 27th ranked defense against the quarterbacks this year. Why not?
Yeah, no, it's way too easy, and I love stacking my wide receivers with my quarterbacks. That's why I'm taking Keenan Allen. Dallas' defense is going to get torched all game, and I think it's going to be Keenan Allen, especially after watching what Keenan Allen did last week to the Buffalo Bills.
Keenan Allen might have the best game of his career here.
I hope so,
yeah,
man.
Me too. I'd love to win big this week. So, for the same reason, I took Keenan Allen because I like to stack my quarterback. If Phil Rivers is going to have a good game, chances are so is Keenan Allen.
Correct.
So why not? He is a little pricey, $7,300. But again, Dallas is 24th against wide receivers this season. This is a no-brainer.
Yeah, okay. Going forward with our next pick that we share together, we share Stephon Diggs. I'm going to tell you why I took Stephon Diggs. To me, it seems like it's been a little bit of the Adam Thielen show over the last few weeks. And Stephon Diggs, he came back and he's been nice. He's been a nice player since coming back from his injury. Case Keenum's been playing very well. We can see that, okay, even though Case Keenum is limited at quarterback, he's still getting the ball to these receivers. And I just feel like a lot of attention has been given on Thielen. It's time for Diggs to show up again, like he was at the beginning of the year.
I took Diggs for the same reasons that Thielen is going to cool off eventually.
Yeah.
Other players have to get the ball. I think this could be Diggs' game to get the ball back in his hands a lot. But it's scary because Diggs got off to this hot start last year.
Very hot.
And cooled off so mightily throughout the season. And he was basically a non-factor in a sense, fantasy-wise. So it does scare me a little bit. But I do believe in Diggs this week. Thielen is going to get a lot of attention from the Lions defense. He's known as their number one now. So I think that it'll take the pressure off Diggs, being that, in air quotes, number one wide receiver that he's kind of been labeled as going from last season into this season. Stephon Diggs looked to have a big week this week against that Detroit defense. They are also playing in a dome. That also helps.
Yeah, no, and I think since coming back from his injury, Stephon Diggs has had 6 targets, 5 targets, and 6 targets. The one big game that he had was because he did score. I mean, he's catching the balls that are thrown to him. He's 4 receptions in all of those games. It's just about the amount of yards he's getting after the catch and whatnot. But I think he's definitely capable for the breakout game. And it just seems like every other game he's going to do it. So why not take the risk?
What about Josh Doctson?
Josh Doctson, I took him because he's cheap and he's going against a terrible defense and a team that I was saying it last week how I think the Giants really quit on Ben McAdoo. They obviously didn't by showing up against Kansas City and taking down a team that's trying to head towards the playoffs.
Started 5-0.
Yeah, exactly. But Josh Doctson, I mean, I just love the way Kirk Cousins is throwing the ball down the field. In that game last week against New Orleans, yeah, they didn't win the game, but they were dominating that game for 3.5 quarters, and their offense really seems to be on point. So, give me Josh Doctson. He's 4,700. Why do you got him?
Well, he had the second best game of the season for his standards last week, fantasy points wise. Back in week 3, he had 12.2. Last week, he had 12.1. He hasn't had double digits other than that. But for majority of the same reasons, he's 4,700. He's cheap. He has taken over the starting wide receiver role for Terrell Pryor. Jordan Reed has been injured. Chances are, even if he does play, he's at 50% or so. Terrell Pryor's a non-factor. Chris Thompson just got injured. The only other person that's getting balls thrown to him is Crowder, and you can't throw it to the same person every time.
Yeah, and Crowder's more of a slot guy, really.
Doctson was unbelievable at TCU. He had some great catches, great hands. I expect him to have a breakout game at some point this season. This could be the week against a terrible Giants defense in reality.
Yeah.
They're 19th against wide receivers this year, but he won't be seeing that number one coverage. Yeah. He'll be all right.
I agree. Just jumping into the running backs here, I took Samaje Perine and Latavius Murray. Samaje Perine, I mean, he's the starting guy now. He is questionable, but I'm assuming he's going to play. Obviously, if he's not going to play, don't play him. Come on, guys, let's be smart about this here. But he's only 5,000, and he's cheap. Don't look at his fantasy points per game. It's only going to be 6. They're calculating every single game here. If you just look at when he's actually been playing, when he's been the starter, and it was last week, and he honestly dominated against the New Orleans Saints, who have a good defense. So he's going against the Giants this week. Yeah, I love Samaje Perine for 5K. Latavius Murray. The Detroit Lions have been pretty terrible against running backs over the past 4 or 5 weeks. You go back to last week and they played the Chicago Bears, and Tariq Cohen and Jordan Howard both scored. They were running crazy all over them. The Chicago Bears are running crazy all over them. The week before that, the Cleveland Browns in Detroit were running all over them. They did lose by 14, but that game was a lot closer than the final score. Isaiah Crowell had a rushing touchdown, and I believe they were just moving the ball up and down the field. Detroit's not as good against the run as a lot of people think, even though they are a decent team. And Latavius Murray has scored each of the last 2 weeks. Give me Latavius Murray for 4,900. Who you got?
I went the opposite of Latavius Murray. I went Jerick McKinnon.
Ooh, boo.
I have him on my ESPN fantasy team. He has done well thus far this season, even though Latavius Murray had the 2 touchdowns last week. Jerick McKinnon still had double-digit fantasy points. He's going to score again. He's going to have another breakout game. He's too good. He's too quick. And you know what he does better than Latavius Murray? Is that he catches the ball. So I'm hoping that will happen this week. In reality, I would not lie to you guys listening to this podcast. It really is a coin flip between the two of them right now. Who's going to have the better game in that specific game? But I'm taking a chance on Jerick McKinnon. But I have Melvin Gordon. I went big on my running back here. I think he's too good not to play, even with Phillip Rivers and Keenan Allen in there. If this game should be a high-scoring game between Dallas and Los Angeles, if Tyrone Smith is back in the lineup for Dallas, if he is not, this game is over before it started, because Tyrone Smith is, like Aaron Rodgers, is proving to be an MVP candidate in my head for this season, because it's not, to me, MVP is not just who has the best stats, but who is truly the most valuable player in that league. And right now, Tyrone Smith is proving his value to any team, because look at the difference between the two, how they've played. So, Melvin Gordon, he's too good not to play. He is pricey, 8,100. He's averaging 18.3 fantasy points per game. Dallas is 24th against the run.
Okay. All right. I'm going to jump all the way down. I'm just going to tell you my defense right now. I'm taking the Washington Redskins. They're 3,600. They're the most expensive defense on the Thanksgiving Day games. But you know what? They're playing against the worst offense, in my opinion, out of all the teams that are going on Thursday night. I love what they were able to do. And if you watched the game against New Orleans, yeah, they gave up 34 points when you look at the final score, 34-31. But if you watched how they actually handled New Orleans for 3.5 quarters, they absolutely dominated them on both sides of the ball. So give me the Washington Redskins. They were playing against a good offense last week, and they played very well. They're playing against a terrible offense this week with no weapons at all. Give me the Redskins, 3,600. Who's your defense?
Defense is tough for me because I went with the Cowboys.
Oh, jeez.
I know it sounds terrible, but I've got $100 remaining on my salary here, and it's either I go up. I have $2,600 remaining. The Cowboys are 25. The Lions are 27.
Okay.
So I don't have enough for the Lions or the Chargers or the Vikings unless I go and change my lineup around.
So you're really hoping for that pick six?
I'm just hoping for a couple turnovers,
Yeah.
yes, because it's hopefully.
Yeah.
But in reality, if you can avoid the Cowboys defense, please do. It's just I'm taking a huge risk on here.
Who's your tight end?
Evan Ingram.
Okay.
And I have Evan Ingram in here because Sterling Shepard may not be playing. He sat out ill on Sunday.
He's got the migraines, doesn't he?
Yeah, and Evan Ingram not only is Washington 28th against the tight ends this year, but he's averaging 11.6 fantasy points per game right now, and he is their main target. With Sterling Shepard out, and we don't have to talk about Brandon Marshall and Odell not playing, I haven't heard those names in weeks, even on SportsCenter, other shows. They're non-factors because of the injuries. Evan Ingram is the guy to go to. He didn't have that big week last week. I do expect him to get back on track this week against a bottom-tier defense against tight ends this season.
All right, yeah, my tight end, it's very easy here. Vernon Davis. There's no Jordan Reed. The Giants are 32nd against the tight end in the NFL. You can get him for $5,500. I think this is a no-brainer. Vernon Davis. Give me Vernon Davis all the way.
And what about your flex?
Flex? Well, I actually have Doxson at my flex, but so I have my other player as a wide receiver. But I have Golden Tate at 6,200. And look, I know he's going against the Minnesota defense, but I don't care because he is going to get targets left and right. And if he can just break one of them out, it's going to pay off dividends because, you know what? That's all this team does. They throw the ball because they can't run it at all. Stafford's going to throw it 35, 40 times a game, and it's either going to go to Marvin Jones or Golden Tate. I'm going to take the guy that gets more targets. I'm taking Golden Tate. Who do you got?
You're missing somebody on that list there. You're missing somebody.
Who am I missing?
Theo Riddick.
Okay.
Theo Riddick, yes, he is a running back, but he's not known for running the ball. He is known for catching the ball and being a pretty good blocker. So he's only 3,600. I could go back and take the Lions defense, get rid of Theo Riddick, and add somebody else in there, but it doesn't make sense. I do believe that if the Lions are going to have this big game against a tough defense, they're going to need every player on that team, and I think Theo Riddick will have the better of the running back games between him and Abdullah. Expect Theo Riddick to play roughly at least half the game, and just going back the last 5 weeks since week 6, he's got 10.3, 6.5, 11.3, 13.7, and he had an off week last week, yes, against the Bears, 4.9, but statistically showing he should be in a double digits in fantasy points this week, and I'm banking on that to continue.
All right, cool. So we gave you our DraftKings lineups here. We're going to go straight into our picks against the spread for all Thursday games. There's 3 of them for you. I'm 30-19 on the season. That is good for 60%. James is 31-17-2. That's above 60%. You got 2 games on me right now. I don't know the exact percentage. Sorry, I didn't do the math before I did this here. I'm just gonna go right through my picks quickly here. We actually do have one game we agree on, so you hear us. One game we both agree on. You should definitely be betting on that game. And I'm just going to jump into that game first. We have the Skins at -7.
Now, let me add to this that this game has been fluctuating back and forth.
Oh, absolutely.
I saw it at 7, and then it was at 7.5, back to 7, 8, 8.5.
Yeah, no, there's some websites that have 8.5 right now.
Do not take this game at 8.5. No. Stay away. If you can find the Redskins at a -7, take the Skins all day.
Yeah, and it's simple because, I mean, if you look at this team that they were a 8-point underdog to New Orleans last week, and you know what? They were dominating that entire game. This is a team that is better than their record. Their stats are proving it. Kirk Cousins is throwing the ball down the field. Their defense is playing pretty well. They have weapons all over the field, and they're going to take advantage of this Giants team because this Giants team has really given up on their coach, even though they did play well last week against the Kansas City Chiefs. But give me the Skins. They're in Washington. They're at home. Give me the Skins.
Jay Gruden, completely underrated as a coach.
Absolutely. All right, going into our picks where we are absolutely going to hate each other, we're going to do the noon game first. I got the Vikings -3. Reason why I'm saying Vikings -3, look, I know they played each other earlier in the year in Minnesota, and Detroit ended up winning 14-7, but you know what? These teams are a little bit different now. Detroit, I thought, was a lot better than they are now, and I mean that they looked. When I actually picked them, I think it was week 4. I picked Detroit over Minnesota in my pick'ems, I believe. But these teams are completely different now. I mean, Case Keenum looks like the real deal as quarterback. We're not talking about, is Sam Bradford going to be back? When's Teddy Bridgewater going to be back? Case Keenum looks really, really good. He's dishing it out to Thielen. He's dishing it out to Diggs. I mean, even the running backs, Murray and McKinnon are looking great. This offensive line is amazing. They were blitzed an insane amount of times against the Los Angeles Rams, and Keenum did not get sacked once. And they sent like 30, 40 different blitz packages at him. I like that offensive line. And this defense is amazing. Take this defense all the way. I don't trust Detroit. I like Detroit if they're in the fourth quarter, but I don't like Detroit in any other point in the game.
Well, I'm taking a +3 Detroit here. And the stats are against Detroit, but let me ask you a question. You ever get a gut feeling? You ever look at realities in sports and think to yourself, all right, this has to happen eventually?
Yes.
Right now, Minnesota, I would not consider a great team. They're a good team, but not a great team. They're not the 07 Patriots or the 09 Colts or teams like that had great quarterbacks and great teams. They're on a 6-game win streak right now. That is going to come to an end eventually. Teams like the Vikings, they may end the season with a great record, 11-5 or so, but they're not going to be 14-2. They're going to lose a couple more games, and it's bound to happen. I'm just looking at realities here. They're playing in Detroit. Detroit is a good team.
Yeah.
If they're going to lose a game in the near future, Detroit, it's a very likely Detroit plays on Thanksgiving. It's going to be rowdy in that stadium. This is a one-day year you don't want to play.
That's the one thing I'm a little bit hesitant on, because Detroit's pretty good on Thanksgiving even when they're terrible.
Yeah, this is Detroit's game. Detroit plays noon every year on Thanksgiving. Nobody has this slot except for Detroit, and they're an underdog. How can I not go with them?
All right, fair enough. Final game, we have the Los Angeles Chargers at the Dallas Cowboys. I keep doing this, man.
You just want to say San Diego and St. Louis so bad.
It just feels so right. The fact that Los Angeles has two teams right now is completely messing me up. I know that they've been there, but man, it's just, especially with the Chargers. The Chargers should be in San Diego.
3 years ago, if I would have, or 5 years ago, because 3 years ago they were talking. 5 years ago, if you would have told me that two teams would be in Los Angeles in the NFL by 2017, I would have told you were crazy. I would have lost that bet.
Anyways, I have the Los Angeles Chargers at a pick'em. Look, the Los Angeles Chargers, they have been playing amazingly well. Since they started 0-4, they've only lost 2 games, and that is to the Jacksonville Jaguars and the New England Patriots. Every other game they have been completely dominant. And these games that they lost, they barely lost to Jacksonville. They barely lost to New England. These are two teams that are top notch in the NFL. They are looking really, really good this time of the year. Even when they were 0-4, they were doing really well statistically. It just wasn't showing up on the win-loss column. They were losing all these games by 1 possession. They are in the hunt for this division still. Only 2 games back with Kansas City slipping like this. And you put all these players for the Chargers on your DraftKings team. This is the exact reason why I'm picking them to win this game at a pick'em. Give me the Los Angeles Chargers with Phillip Rivers, Melvin Gordon, and Keenan Allen.
Well, let me ask you a question, all right? Because I didn't get this game at a pick'em. I have this game, Dallas, as a 1-point underdog.
Okay.
So I'm taking Dallas here. I fully expect Tyrone Smith to be back in the lineup. He was supposed to play last week. I guess they held him out. Just precautionary reasons. I'm really not sure why. There were talk that he was going to play. If he's in the lineup on Thursday, this game is not going to be a 7 or 10 point game. This is going to be a 5-3, 2, 1 point game. And if Dallas doesn't win, I'm going to take my chances with them losing by just a close game, 33-32, something like that, 27-28. But if Tyrone Smith's back in the lineup, it should be a pretty high-scoring game. I still think that Dallas could come out on top with the Chargers players performing at a high level.
Yeah, no, and I'm taking this game because I think Tyron Smith is going to be out. And even if he does play, he's questionable. I just saw the Bleacher Report update. He's questionable, so he's not going to be 100%.
No.
And if he's not going to be even 75%, I don't trust him. He's one of the best in the game, but I don't trust him if he's not three-fourths healthy.
Yeah, well, 75% of one player is 75%. That's like, Mark Sanchez and Tyrod Taylor. I was going to say Tom Brady, but that would be an insult to Brady. It's Tyrone Smith. If he should be back in the lineup, I'm hoping he is, because Dallas is a fun team to watch when he is, because they have a talented offense.
Oh,
they really do.
And if they also have no Sean Lee, I told you about Sean Lee last week. He wasn't playing, and Philly just destroyed them on all facets of the game, really. But just on that side, they're missing 2 key guys on both sides of the ball, and not to mention Ezekiel Elliott, of course. So they're just missing like 3 really key players, and I don't like that combination at all.
Let me add right now that I'm taking this game with intentions of Tyrone Smith playing. Mm-hmm. If you could hold off on betting this game until a Saturday night, Sunday morning when you find out he's playing or not.
You mean Thursday morning?
Thursday morning, I'm sorry. If you find you can wait till then wait, find out if he's playing or not. If he's playing, take Dallas 100%. They were still going to be an underdog. If not, they'll be a pick'em. I would go with Dallas personally. If Tyrone Smith is not playing, I will still take the loss because I'm intending on him playing. But I would recommend not betting again with the Cowboys. I would go with the Charger if he's not playing, and that would be my advice to somebody. But as of right now, I would say chances are he's going to play, so I'm going to roll with the Cowboys.
All right, be sure to like us on Facebook, listen to us on YouTube. You can subscribe there. You can also like our page on Facebook, Between the Hash Marks. Listen to us on iTunes. You can also email the show, bthashmarks@gmail.com. On our next episode, we're going to be doing our picks against the spread. We're going to still do 5 picks for you, even though we just did 3 for you already this week. And then we're going to do the DraftKings lineup for the Sunday and Monday games, not to mention fantasy pickup. And, of course, we have our great opening rants.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving. You're listening to Between the Hash Marks.